Sa bahay yan. Pwede talaga sa bahay pag-usapan. Session is resumed. We recognize the next interpellator, the gentleman from the great city of Taguig and Pateros, no other than Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, to interpellate the sponsor. You're recognized, sir.
Magandang hapon, Mr. Senate President, Mr. Majority Leader, Honorable Vice President and Secretary of DepEd family, and my dear Chairperson, Ate. May I have this opportunity to ask some clarificatory questions?
Of course. Please proceed.
Yeah. Two parts. In the first part, of course, your opinion as well as the DepEd is most welcome. And the second part, if I may ask just for factual answers from the DepEd. Let me start with a biblical principle. No? Hosea 4:6 says, "My people are destroyed from lack of knowledge." Although meron tong spiritual context, di ba, na how can you live or how can you have eternal life or exist if you don't know God? It is also a realism in this world that pag walang knowledge, you die. Di ba? Hindi mo alam na may scholarship, pwedeng mamatay yung opportunity mo mag-aral. Hindi mo alam na may medical assistance program at walang gamot, pwede kang mamatay sa sakit, no? So, I always take solace from the preamble of the 1987 Constitution, if you permit me to read it again. "We, the sovereign Filipino people, imploring the aid of Almighty God, in order to build a just and humane society and establish a government that shall embody our ideals and aspirations, promote the common good, conserve and develop our patrimony, and secure to ourselves, our posterity, the blessing of independence and democracy under the rule of law, and a regime of truth, justice, freedom, love, equality, and peace, do ordain and promulgate this Constitution." So it gives me solace na may hope at meron tayong aspiration. But of course, ang tanong ng taong bayan parati is how? Paano natin maabot yon? And I think the sponsor and I and all the senators and the Vice President agree that education is key. Education is the great equalizer, no, which is often quoted. So, may I ask if the sponsor agrees that may I ask how the sponsor or the DepEd characterizes the present situation of Philippine education?
How do you characterize the present situation of Philippine education? Swimming, drowning, surviving. One word na lang. Language. Hopeful. Hopeful, Mr. President.
Hopeful. But what's our status? Are we doing well, doing bad? Are we in the top chair? Are we, paano natin ma-characterize? Would you agree with some of the statements that Philippine education is in crisis?
Well, actually, Mr. President, in earlier discussions with the President, Secretary, she already indicated that they're concerned about the PISA results, no? So that is recognized international standard for assessing where the students are. She's already expressed concern.
Well, for the record, I'm taking the long view. I'm not taking this last year or the term of President Marcos or the term of Vice President Duterte alone. I'm talking the long view from the 60s na number 2 tayo sa buong mundo, na napakalaking part ng budget natin ay sa education, pero hindi libre ang high school. And then 1986 came, the EDSA revolution, naging libre ang high school, so it became accessible, but the quality suffered and after a few years, they were mass promoting students, and first-year high school students weren't able to read well. Fast forward 2013, nearing our goals of the teacher, pupil, learner, classroom ratio, we decided na para maging world-class, mag-K to 12, then we're back to where we are today, no? So some people say that the educational system of the Philippines is in crisis. Will the sponsor or the DepEd agree with that or no?
Yes.
Yeah. And it is good to have an agreement where we are, di ba? Kasi hindi masosolve ang problema na hindi natin alam na may ganung problema. No, so I for one do appreciate that answer, because when we're in crisis, we come together and try to help each other and try to get out of that crisis. Allow me lang to pay a little bit of homage to PhilippinDailyInquirer.net and their editorial. Maikli lang to, but eto sinabi niya, ask a typical 10-year-old school student in the Philippines to read and understand a simple, age-appropriate paragraph, and there is a good chance that as many as 9 out of 10 will not be able to. This dismal level of reading comprehension among pupils puts the Philippines firmly among the poorest in the learnings in the region, according to the latest World Bank report on the quality of education in East Asia and the Pacific, with an alarming 91% learning poverty rate, even with the return of the face-to-face classes across the country. The Philippines has therefore failed to improve the same dismal ranking in 2022 study of 22 middle-income countries in the region by the Washington-based lender, and was done after a 2 years of remote or distance learning forced by the COVID-19 pandemic. In stark contrast, learning, defined by the World Bank, being unable to read and understand short age appropriate tests by the age of 11 or between grade 4 and 5 under the country's K-12 system, is high. In high-income Japan, South Korea, and Singapore, is a minuscule 3 to 4%. In Vietnam, it is just 18%, the lowest among the Southeast Asian countries in the survey. So I don't have the statistics for Thailand, but looking at, with the permission of our colleagues, all throughout the budget hearing, I'll be referring to Vietnam and Thailand in Southeast Asia, maybe sometimes Singapore, kasi magandang may comparison tayo because children from Davao, from Taguig, from Makati, from Isabela are not only competing with each other, they're competing with children from Japan, South Korea, Myanmar, from all the countries around the world. So the next question I have is, what is the one thing? I know that there are many, many things. I know that the Secretary is working hard. Our Chairman, Win Gatchalian, and Senator P are working hard sa EDCOM. But if there is one thing that has to be fixed to put us back on the right track, what is that one thing? Of course, the other EDCOM member, Joel Villanueva.
Commissioner naman din po si Senator Sani Angara, Your Honor, just to put on record.
Yes. Sorry, I violated the rule ng mga politiko not to mention kung hindi mo kayang i-mention lahat. But you know my heart, brother. I admire all of you and the hard work you're doing. I just wanted, in a very short interpolation, to see if may consensus ang administration, ang Senate, ang taong bayan, kung ano ang priority or what's the... So this is a common theme I asked my staff. Of course, it's from the book, The One Thing. This is something I'll ask all departments, di ba? So kung traffic, what's the one thing to solve traffic? Kung mataas ang presyo, what's the one thing to solve it, no? I do understand, I've heard the discussions earlier. You had a long discussion during the budget hearings where the Vice President answered the questions directly, no? But in essence, what do you think the one thing is that we can do? And it doesn't have to be strict naman one thing, but you know more or less what I usually talk long, so pinapaikli ko para one thing na lang instead of the several things.
Well, I will not respond in the parameters that you gave one thing. So I will give you 5 things. Because it is a complicated, question.
Yes.
So
So what are those
I
5
won't I
things?
won't go into details, but quality of education is one, which is basically the development of a holistic curriculum, which requires training of teachers, setting a national standard, increasing STEM. That's the one, quality education. The second is accessibility and inclusivity, ensuring that those in the remote schools would have access to education, promoting inclusive education, which is a law that we just passed, improving access through scholarships to deserving and underprivileged students, and distance learning. Third, technology integration. I think that's quite easy to understand. Fourth, health and safety, integrate health and nutrition program in schools, establish guidelines, physical and mental health, so on and so forth. And 5, cultural and values education. I think it speaks for itself. That includes, recognizing, understanding our Philippine heritage. 6 is partnership and collaboration, engaging with the local communities and the private sector and the international education organizations, and of course also the parents. 7th is research and development, promote research in education technology, pedagogy, policy making, establishing a national database, and encouraging innovation.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that answer, and definitely, yan ang mga mechanics o yan yung susi. No? But the discipline of having one thing is the belief that, like a series of dominoes, that if you push the first one and have a real focus, susunod-sunod yung iba. May I just venture a idea? Just something to think about, because I've been thinking about our beloved city of Taguig. Since 1992, I've been advocating quality education there when people did not see the value of education. And looking back, parang pareho pa rin eh. It's returning to the quality time or having classes from 7 to 3 or 8 to 4. No, so I'll go to that later. But for me, if I was governor of Metro Manila or mayor of Taguig, or if I had to make a plan with EDCOM, yes, it won't be that simple. It's very complicated. Lahat ng sinabi mo tama. But what's the one thing that will return us to the right path? I think it's having enough time for the learners to actually learn. Kasama na lahat doon, syempre. Kasama na yung training ng teachers. Kahit 8 hours yung pasok mo, kung hindi trained yung teachers, of course, if you don't have the technology, of course, if they're not safe, no? But as I said, as a discipline, kailangan may isang target and then bullseye talaga siya, and then we really focus on it, no? The reason I say that question is because I do want to propose amendments sa budget. If you propose that 8 items, all of us will just keep saying dagdagan natin, pero hindi naman madadagdagan. But if we all say that it's really the classroom, or really more teachers, or really more, then we can have a little bit of a focus. But I'm not saying I'm correct. I just wanted to venture that. And in going to that, let me go to K to 12. I had the privilege of being, I don't know if it's a privilege or the problem of being only one of 2 senators who opposed K to 12 back in 2013. Baliktanaw lang po. 2013, the claim was halos wala na tayong shortage. So para maging world-class, sumunod na daw tayo mag K to 12. And I opposed that, saying mas gusto kong naka-Volkswagen tayo na yung Volkswagen ay hindi nasisiraan, naka-aircon, maganda. Kaso sa naka-Mercedes-Benz tayo na sira-sira, na wala naman tayong pangbiling spare parts. That early, Senator Ralph Recto said that if we pass the K to 12, we will need 250 billion more in the budget and 250 billion from the pockets of parents for an extra 2 years. CHED also promised that they will take out 1 year from college at ililipat sa senior high school, which they did not do right away. In the middle of the Duterte administration, in the cabinet, I asked that question, and 6 months lang ang tinanggal nila. No? So, again, I don't want to complicate the issue. May I ask, in the view of DepEd, what were the 1, 2, or 3, or 4 goals of K to 12? And isusunod ko na yung next question ko. Because the next question is, I would like to ask if they're of the opinion that we should continue the K to 12 or to go back to the K to 10, or have some kind of mix like a K to 11.
So you're sticking with the K to 12? Okay. Yeah. Mr. President, they are currently reviewing different models for K to 12, and that actually includes a model which would be like K to 10 plus 2. They have asked ADB to study this, and they are about to review the recommendations of
Okay.
ADB.
Let's go back to 2013. Noong 2013, sabi nila less than 5 countries na lang ang hindi nag-K to 12. But dun sa less than 5 countries na yon, 2 of them had very good educational systems, including Cuba. So it was not proven that K to 12 is better. The argument of then Senator Angara, and to his credit, no, he went well. He's done so much for the Philippine education. Sa unang EDCOM, talagang on point yung kanyang mga recommendation. No? But ang point ni Brother Armin at ni Senator Angara noon is that there are certain jobs in Europe, especially engineering jobs, na kung kulang tayo ng plus 2, hindi nila makukuha. Kinumpute ko yun less than 1% of Philippine population eh. So bakit yung 99% ipla-plus 2 years natin, tapos yung 40%? He said, because that is only one of the reasons. But the main reasons for K to 12 is, 1, better prepared for higher education. And then kung hindi mag-higher education, employable na. And then, develop na ang skills nila, and then may entrepreneurship, and then may middle-level skills development. So what I did during that time is to compare the K to 12 curriculum with the curriculum of Philippine Science High School. And the only difference was free time. Philippine Science High School was already on the initial K to 12, following a K to 10. The only difference is that we were spending 3, 4, 5 times more per student in Philippine Science. Of course, may exam din sila. So competitive din. Then DepEd. No? So to be fair to DepEd, it's not, you have brilliant students. I love Philippine high school, but we're also spending so much more per student, per teacher sa Philippine high school. So in the first 2-3 years of K to 12, Philippine Science High School just added free time. Ganong kakalokohan yung sa K to 12 nung umpisa. So sabi, because we needed time para sa mga tracks. So let me go to that. How good are our tracks nowadays?
In sa senior high? Okay. According to DepEd, Your Honor, in 2018, those who took the TVL track, and Senator Joel can respond to this, they were able to get their MC certifications.
How many took the test?
Well, then the second part of my response is, but most, as His Honor pointed out, still went on to college.
Yes.
So how many took the test? I don't have the number. Do you have
The
the number?
point is, and I'm not blaming DepEd here because you can only do what the government gives you money for, no? But meron ba tayong parang Don Bosco? na pag tinignan mo at sinabi mong electrical electronics, pag-graduate doon, halos hindi na kailangan mag-college sa galing niya sa electronics at electrical.
With the indulgence of my two colleagues, my ate and kuya, may I just interject and spread the records as well. The challenges facing K to 12, which is the lack of tech voc assessors, for instance. Not even talking about teachers here, but assessors, in order for you to be assessed. And because at the end of the day, you wanted to make sure that you get the national certification that you need, which has been or has become a passport for employment. But if you don't have enough assessors for the tech voc track, you don't have enough teachers, trainers for the tech voc track. You don't have enough facilities. For example, if you're in one particular area wherein you can only offer very limited courses, only because that's the only courses you can offer, even if it is not in demand, your honors, then still, K to 12 will continue to fail if we don't have all these inputs that should be in place, your honors.
Thank you for that, Mr. Senate President, Mr. Majority Leader. In fact, yung sasabihin ko nga sa DepEd na ito yung pre-namis ng K to 12 pero hindi binigay sa inyo yung resources para nga ma-implement nyo. That's why when you are answering kamusta yung tracks, you're giving the best that you can, but your best is not good enough because the country did not also give you the best that it can. So for example, no, how do Filipinos learn how to drive? Sa Amerika, it's in high school. May driving school. With K to 12, dapat meron tayong ganon. Sa Germany, accountants and accounting assistants, they don't have to go to college. Pag-graduate ng high school, sa atin ba may kumpanya na as a general rule, as an exception, yung sobrang galing, kukunin nila. Diba? So, naging overgrown na practical arts at saka home economics yung atin tracks. Yung sports high schools natin, meron ba silang Meron ba silang oval? Meron ba silang football field? Meron ba silang high performance gym? Wala. Ang usapan dun sa tracks, yun ang promise nung K to 12 no? So para tong isang lalaki na nagpropose sa babae na pag pinakasalan mo ako, langit at lupa ibibigay ko sa iyo, pero nung pinakasalan na, sinabi na tapos na eleksyon. 'Di ba? So the point I want to make here is that we're facing a crossroad and we have to make a choice. If we really want K to 12, we have to pay for it. And DepEd has to come out with an amount and we have to all work together how to come out with that amount. Ang pinaka-basic dyan is yung bumalik nga tayo to 7 to 3 or 8 to 4. May I ask that question, Madam Chair? Ilan na ang schools ngayon, let's say in Metro Manila, ang shifting? O ilan ang schools na hindi shifting, kahit percentage? We can get all the statistics later on, but just for the purpose of discussion, no? Just to bring out the points. So how many are on a single, what's the right terminology? Walang shift, meaning whole day.
Not just Metro.
How many are half day? How many are two shifts?
So, Mr. President, the number of schools implementing a double shift, 2,280. Number of schools implementing a triple shift, 32. Number of schools implementing quadruple shift, 3. Number of schools implementing a combination of 2 or more shifts, 499. So a total of 2,814 schools have more than one
Yeah,
shift.
can I clarify? Two shifts means morning and afternoon.
Yes.
One shift means whole day ka. Tama ba?
6 hours.
6 hours.
is the norm.
Ngayon, pero nung tayo high school, it was 7 to 3 or 8 to 4.
Nung bago ba mag K to 12 or what, 10, 15 years ago, was it always 6? Sino bang old-timer? 6
No,
ba?
I was already in high school during President Cory's time. It was 7 to 3. The only exceptions was like LaSalle Hills na half day sila.
6 sa public school. Public school has always been 6. That's the response I'm getting.
I don't think so because if that was the case, Meron ba sa DepEd na inabot pa si Nilo Rojas? Wala na. Rosas? Wala na eh. Mga bata na lahat ano eh. So yung institutional memory. Anyway, I'll make my point. No? So ilan yung 6 hours?
And all the other schools, Your Honor, ilan total schools natin? We have about 44,000.
So this is ano na, nationwide. So out of the...
Out of 47,000 schools, there's around 2,814.
Who are on
There
the two
is
shifts.
2,815 that have double or more
Okay,
shifts.
but the statistics I seen in Metro Manila, it's about, what, a third of Metro Manila is on a 2
Well,
shifts.
I would assume the bulk of this is Metro Manila, no?
Yeah.
And Calabar Zone. Your
Yes.
Honor.
So ito ang point. So before you only had grade 1 to 6, walang K, and you had 4 years of high school, pero you had 6 to 8 hours of school. 'Di ba? And then 40 lang kayo sa classroom. Now you're 45, you're 50, and you have 4, 5, 6 hours and an additional 2 years. So it doesn't make sense. 'Di ba? And then ngayon, less homework then. You know, all these international studies, I won't argue, we have to look at it, but we have to also look what works for the Filipino. Diba? So bakit tayo nagdagdag? I'm not, this is addressed to us kasi kami nagpasa nito noong 2013. Diba? Why would we add 2 years? Dagdag bawas eh. We add the 2 years, put the burden there, and then did not put the resources, so less hours nandun. So I want just to throw this question nga, di ba? Whether you call it K to 10 plus 2, K11, etc. The point is, more hours, let me go through it, no? The optimal number of hours in school, whether it's 6 hours, 7 or 8, including lunch break and including extracurricular, including PE, including chess club, debate club, and everything in school. 40, maximum 50 in a classroom, all facilities, etc., etc. I know it's going to the ideal. I'm just saying you can't have it both ways. Eh. Hindi ka pwedeng mag K to 12 and then ayusin lahat yon. Just hindi ko na ma-compute in my mind. I was asking Senator Coco yung, sabi yung kulang na classroom, 150,000.
Around 400 billion.
Okay. So, if it's 400 billion, it's doable. 1 trillion ang DPWH budget. If we get 10% of DPWH budget every year and put 100 billion in classrooms for the next 4 years, we'll make it. If it's 75 billion in the next 6 years, we'll make it. I'm preaching to the choir. Alam kong gusto ng DepEd more classrooms. Alam kong kailangan din ng teachers, etc. But ang point ko, either we're determined to fix Philippine education and kung anong meron sa pinakamagandang private school ay maibibigay din natin sa public school or we're not committed. But the way we're doing the budgeting now and just saying we're doing the best we can will not solve the problem. We had an opportunity in 2016 to pause the K to 12. I do understand why President Duterte in the recommendation of then Secretary Ling said no, kasi hindi naman niya alam na magkaka-pandemic. Kasi kung alam natin na magkaka-pandemic at maghihirap yung private school magsasara and maglilipat sa mga public school yung mga estudyante, baka kinonsider ni President Duterte noon yung suspension ng K to 12 because he was actually thinking about it. Eh. He was looking at the numbers already because one thing he was doing is looking also towards granting the free college, which he eventually did. Kasi remember, may second part yan. So, I'll go to my last point. No? So, the theory was, we will make K to 12 so good, walang magda-drop out, that when you graduate, pwede ka nang hindi mag-college at employable ka na. It was so good na dapat magiging irrelevant ang TESDA. Because ang TESDA pang out-of-school youth. So, ang magiging twist ng TESDA, they will come up with better technical education program na parang pang-college na. But when Senator Joel and I were, together with Senator Angara, questioning nga yung TESDA, so far, they have no role in the accreditation ng programs ng DepEd schools. No? So, I'd like to throw to the chairperson and the chairperson of the Committee on Basic Education another question. 25 years ago, sineparate natin yung Department of Education, Culture, and Sports because ang keyword was trifocalization. And I believe in focusing. That's why I pushed for the Department of Migrant Workers. I believe, even if I spent a lot of time as DFA Secretary sa OFWs, I believe dapat may nakatutok. But right now, I really wonder if people in DepEd wants a say in all three. Or people in CHED want a say sa DepEd, or people in TESDA want a say sa tracks ninyo. So there's nothing to stop the three from speaking and talking. But ako, I do not see the logic that we will have certain tracks that TESDA dapat ang authority, pero hindi TESDA ang nag-accredit sa ating mga schools. No? So let me ask this last question. If you have the numbers, if not, I will get it from you later. What is the per capita spending per student right before K-12, and what is the per capita spending now or proposed for 2024? We can go back to that later. The only reason I ask that is for a guide for all of us. Kasi if we were spending it much more before K-12 and we're spending much less now, and I'm talking about in real terms, not in nominal terms. No?
Mr. President, we have figures for 2023 and 2024, but offhand, I don't have the figures
Yeah.
in the past. No?
May I just give that to the EDCOM to take a look at, diba?
Yeah.
If you look at the per capita spending ng Philippine Science
Okay.
and ng DepEd before K-12 and now, it
okay.
might be a guide for us to see if we're, if we're going on the right direction. Okay. So, just
I have a chart that shows, when I saw these figures, I asked for the comparison for other countries, and we're at the bottom of the bottom of the bottom in terms of spending per student and learning outcomes. It's a chart on PISA, so yeah, sobrang layo natin.
Well, let me leave you with, some encouragement that in many localities, there are innovations, incentives, because the cities and provinces now have some money. And I'd like to ask, I don't need it right now, but on hand, have there been some changes or some innovations in what the school board and the SEF can pay for? Because 20 years ago, when ang problema was classroom, medyo, and Secretary Jokno was part of this, medyo very strict na 1, 2, 3 lang ang pwedeng paggamitan ng school board. But when technology came in, people were expecting meron move nun na magluwag. So I don't really know, but I know that there are many local government officials and superintendents na napakagagaling, that if you give them a freer hand of innovation in the school board level, they'll be able to use the SEF better. At this point, I don't even know whether it's legislation or just a joint memorandum between DepEd and DBM. So is it still as restrictive as it was before, or medyo niluwagan nyo na?
Lumuwag, di ba? Lumuwag na, di ba? Tama ba? Expand. Oh, yeah, it's been expanded.
Okay. So, so let me sum it up na kung tuloy ang K-12, how much do we need? And will we have a 5-year plan? Will the DBM and the administration commit to that money? No, whether classroom teachers. if hindi tuloy ang K-12, what is the alternative and how can we make sure that kung ano man criticism ng ibang bansa na we have less 2 years but better quality? So I guess the question we should ask ourselves is that, do we want to have the form na K-12 tayo, pero ganyang kababa ang quality, or do we have criticism na hindi tayo K-12, pero mataas yung quality? If you ask me, I'd rather have K-12 and high quality. But again, can we afford it? And how much will it actually cost? I think even for an exercise, kahit sabihin mong DepEd needs another trillion, it might be, wow, where will we get that? But it's better knowing, in the same manner that I admire you for admitting that we are in crisis sa Philippine education, I don't think there's anything wrong that we tell people, if we really want to fix education, this is how much we need. Ang DPWH, baha, 250 billion. Di ba? So, I used to ask students sa Taguig, ano mas gusto nyo? May putik sa paan nyo, pero pwede nyo hugasan pag uwi, pero nakapag-aral kayo? Or, wala kayong putik sa paa kasi nagawa yung pathway, nagawa yung anti-flood, pero kapag-aral. Kasi you have to make a choice. Anong gusto mo unahin? Classrooms or flood control, for example, di ba? It's a choice, no matter what we say, no? Having said that, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, I feel quite awkward, but I'll be remiss if I don't ask some questions about my home city, given the state of the issue there. And the answers I know will come from the transition committee. For the record, I have not talked to my sister the last few days, so she doesn't know the the questions that I'm going to ask. But just as a preliminary, may I ask who read the Supreme Court decision regarding Taguig and Makati vis-a-vis for the transition committee?
Sino daw yun nagbasa ng Supreme Court? Sinong in charge nito?
Is it your legal department? Sinong USEC ang nagbasa nung...
Pero tinatanong niya kung nagbasa, binasa niyo daw yun.
So do you confirm that you read the Supreme Court decision?
The dispositive portion of the Supreme Court decision.
Well, that's one reason you're taking so long in the transition committee, because you're advising the Vice President, you're leading the whole transition committee, but you have not read the whole decision. So do I have a commitment that you will read the whole decision?
Yes, the answer is
So
yes, Your Honor.
how do you characterize the dispute between Makati and Taguig vis-a-vis the schools nowadays? Is it a political dispute? Is it a legal dispute? Is it a financial dispute?
Hindi ko nasasagot ko. Sabihin na sa akin. Yeah. Mr. President, it's already a settled case, therefore it's for implementation, and that is the function of the transition committee.
So
in
I
DepEd.
think I heard the Vice President, and I thank her for that. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Because I want you to watch a video, and it appears that some of your people don't have the same opinion. Can we show the video of, is it Assistant Secretary Brigas?
Bringas.
The party, but the side of the learners. So whether you are originally from Makati and now from Taguig, what is important is you put the best interest of the learners as your priorities. Okay, so you will be providing the balance for the confusion that is happening. So when you meet your teachers, tell them na same message. Your side is the learner's side. Okay. So you guard and spare the learners from all these controversies because they need to focus on their studies. And that's why you are here. Okay? So yun lang naman yung advice ko sa inyo. So that when the time comes that there's going to be transition, alam nyo na you did not take sides, you focus on the side of the learners. So whatever is for the benefit of the learners, that should be your priority. If they have 2 uniforms, so be it. That's for their benefit. No? And besides, uniform in the public schools is optional. So when they have 2 uniforms of different colors, they can wear it different days of the week. Yeah, if they have 2 pairs of shoes, so much the better.
Yeah.
Diba?
You will
And
like
they
it.
have doubled the number of learners kits and so much the better. Basta we should not let them be in the middle of any controversy, but make them focus with their studies. Okay. So we are counting so much on the teachers as the balancers of these issues, and do not engage in any partisan activity. Just make sure that you're doing your mandates as teachers, doing your responsibilities to all your learners. So if you do that, hindi naman kayo magkakaroon.
So first and foremost, I'd like to thank the Vice President that when the letter was written to her, that meron final and executory decision, DepEd acted upon it. So ma'am, I appreciate that. Having said that, I think the Assistant Secretary for saying importante at priority in learners. But I take offense dun sa tawanan about the uniforms and about being neutral, politics, etc. You know, the mayor of Taguig and Makati are elected officials. Hindi to mga bata na nag-aaway. You're trying to make light and funny of a situation that is very crucial to these children. So let me start with a specific question. What is the policy of DepEd regarding uniforms?
Okay, uniforms are not mandatory.
And is it correct? The reason is not the science behind it, because the science behind it is solid. Uniforms are very advantageous to students. The reason is because our people are poor at wala silang pambili ng uniform. Kaya tayo hindi mandatory. But for cities who can afford, they can provide uniform.
Is that correct? Correct? So they can provide, Your Honor, but according to DepEd, it's still not mandatory.
Well, if that's the state, private school na hindi nag-uniform. Okay, so why is it called a uniform? Di ba kasi isa lang? So can I ask, maybe the Assistant Secretary should join the group in front para masagot yung questions. Kasi ikaw nag-make ng statement eh. Can you tell me, Assistant Secretary,
So
through
can,
the
just for
chairperson?
the record, for our uso pa ba stenographer, recording na lang ng ano, sa YouTube. Who is it you're calling? Is this Francis Cesar Bringas? No?
Yes.
Okay, can you stay here?
May I know from the sponsor if the Assistant Secretary knows any school in the world that has 2 uniforms at the same time?
Oo. You heard the question? Yeah. To let them to accept reforms. Okay. So, Mr. President, Vice President, Secretary said she was the one who told ASEC to accept any uniform.
Yes, accepting the uniforms and telling the teachers and students that in a way that's making it katatawanan, na you can wear one on Monday and one on Friday, is not the same as accepting uniforms.
Yes. Do you,
I can give you a book today But to tell you, use my book on Monday, use PF's book on Tuesday and Wednesday, concept of the uniform is uni, hindi multi. Ibig sabihin, isa lang. Diba? Kung hindi, multiform yan. Okay. I'll go to my second point. Ayaw niyong malito yung estudyante. Sabi niyo, alisin sila dun sa issue. Tapos, yung isa nilang notebook, Taguig, yung isa nilang notebook, Makati. Yung katabi nila, ang notebook, Taguig, ang katabi, Makati. You will make that a policy? Eh, yung ang lahat ng mga nakakabit sa classroom, pinatanggal nyo, parang walang, walang distraction. Tapos, pag-aawayin mo yung parents, kung sinong gusto sa Taguig, sino papayagan nyo yon? That is the implication of your policy. You said it's for the students, you said they can accept it, but in your meeting, you said they can use all of them. So, tamang policy yun?
So, Mr. President, the VP Secretary is saying that she was the one who instructed the ASEC. But if I may just add my own commentary on all this, ASEC, it's in your delivery. When you laugh about it in a way and say na, di Monday, mag-uniform kayo ng Taguig, Tuesday, mag-uniform kayo na ano, kahit ako, and you will all attest to it, napariyak ako while listening. I wasn't saying anything, I was just listening, but I reacted because it is not consistent with the Supreme Court. It is not consistent with the Supreme Court decision. Diba? Oh. Statement mo ba to? Mr. President, ASEC bring us apologizes for making light of the situation.
Accept the apology for me, no? For Taguig and the mayors, nasa kanila yon. I know you're working hard, I know you love the students, but we have to think of the consequences of our action. So kung ang China magbigay ng notebook sa Pag-asa Island, sasabihin natin pwedeng gamitin ng Pilipino yung China at saka yung The Supreme Court has already said that these barangays are Taguig and Makati is prohibited from exercising any jurisdiction. Giving them notebooks from their public funds is exercising jurisdiction. Giving them, accepting, okay, but telling them you need to use it, allowing them to use both, ma'am, is it that stepping on the autonomy of Taguig? DepEd doesn't have full authority under the DepEd schools in any city in the country. It's a joint responsibility with local autonomy. In fact, if you look at basic education law, it is the principal who has that authority, not the secretary. Isn't it correct?
The answer, so I can... DepEd respects the opinion of...
No, it's not an opinion, it's in the law. We're lawyers here, so ito. Basic Education Act, Republic Act 9155, consistent with national education policies, plans, standards, school heads shall have the authority, accountability, this is all for the benefit of the learners. In the memorandum reshuffling the superintendent of Taguig, what law did you violate or disregard? I was a secretary once, so I know these are prepared by the legal. So I'm not blaming the secretary, but kayo nag-prepare niyan.
Can we ask His Honor, Mr. President, for the date of the reshuffling, just to be sure they're aligned with the same incident
One
that His
time
Honor
lang
is
naman kayo
thinking of.
nag-reshuffle, di ba? In the middle of everything,
Okay.
na wala namang gulo, na may nagsasabing gugulo, tinanggal nyo yung superintendent ng Taguig, di ba? Oh, what law did you violate? Or did you disregard?
Or did you think you were following?
Did you consult the mayor of Taguig before you removed the superintendent? Did you consult the mayor of Taguig before you replaced with another superintendent?
No, she was not consulted, Your
Are you
Honor.
allowed to do that?
Are you allowed?
You're not aware of Section 99 of the Local Government Code on the local school board? The Department of Education, Culture, and Sport shall consult the local school board on the appointment of division superintendents, district supervisors, schools principals, and other officials. I've been in Congress since 1998. I've always insisted in the proper consultation. So, sabi nyo may gulo sa 10 barangay, may 28 barangays ang Taguig. Nakailang meeting ang superintendent sa opening ng classes. Lahat ng programa, inattendan niya yung meetings. Every single step of the way of the transition, she was in contact with the NCR director and with Yusek POA. But then, may nanggulo, na wala namang gulo, tinanggal nyo na walang consultation sa local government. So how can you say that you care about the learners in Taguig? Did you care about the 28 barangays and all the other schools making preparations for opening classes? We were in the middle of hope. This is a recollection every weekend kasama yung mga estudyante. The superintendent played a key role there. Pero ano sinabi nyo? Pack up, umalis ka na, lumipat ka na ng Marikina. So, how can you tell us that you're saying learners ang importante dito? Pagka kayo nagdesisyon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, sasabihin para sa learners eh. Pero hindi man lang inisip kung ano ang epekto.
I mean, it's suspension, Mr. President.
Session suspended.